Well, welcome to the Unique Perspective Show.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Welcome.
Good. Thank you so
What's
much for having
doing?
me. Good, Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Hashem, where are you located today? Cleveland,
Today,
Lakewood, Tom River, Jackson.
Long Branch, New Jersey, and
Okay.
so glad to be on your show. I
I'm
watched
very
the very first episode of one of our role models, Simcha Shane, and it's an honor to be here, Yehuda Lev.
Thank you. Okay. So tell us a little bit, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
I went to school in Cleveland all the way through ninth grade.
Wow.
Then I went to Edison and Darche, and I went to Yeshiva in Lakewood, and then I joined the workforce.
You went to Edison? I didn't know that you went to Edison. I knew you went to Darche, but I didn't know you went to Edison.
I was in Edison Yeshiva. I graduated out of Darche. I was in Edison for a little bit, for a year. And I went to Darche and I graduated from there.
Okay. How you didn't go to any other yeshivas besides those three?
No.
Okay. So after Darche, what did you do?
After Darche, I came to Lakewood. I was in a yeshiva that you learn a half a day in the morning and you work a half a day in the afternoon. And then, after a year or two, I ended up going to work full time.
Where in Lakewood did you go to? I'm saying, like, where in Lakewood did you live, or?
So I started off living in a dorm in this yeshiva.
Okay.
And then after about a year, I moved into my uncle and aunt's house, Yerucham and Chai Lifeline, who were so gracious to open up their home in the
Wow.
heart to allow me in. And it's been 8 years now, and I am
Wow.
blessed to have a home away from home.
I'm sure it gives you comfort to know that it's your aunt and uncle
Absolutely.
and no one else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you get involved with work and all the Hasadim organizations that you joined?
Sure. So first of all, I'm blessed to have been raised in a home that taught me the fundamentals of being a giving person and being a generous. I grew up, my father and mother taught me this, and the reason why they taught me this is because they were raised in such homes, both on my father's side, the Dessler family, my grandfather, Rabbi Dessler, who was an unbelievable man, Zichet Tzadik Kadosh Livracha. He was somebody who, I grew up in a home that when a Mashiach knocks on the door, you not only did my grandfather used to put on his kapata and my father put on his jacket just to open the door for them, but they didn't just get a check, they got a meal, they got a place to stay if they needed, and my mother's side, the Bertram family, my grandfather actually just passed away about a month ago, and one of the stories that the Lev was told was that he walked into a shul in Tveria, and shul had a little coin slot that you would put money in for the air conditioning, and when he came in he put money in for the air conditioning for his minyan for mincha, and on his way out he put in for the next minyan. That's what type of person he was. That's what type of family I was raised in. Parents and grandparents on both sides, that all they taught me was to be a giving person, in the right ways.
Wow. So who was your father's father again?
My father's father was Reb Chaim Ozer Dessler. He was born in 1921. He came to America in 1940, and he started the Hebrew Academy of Cleveland in 1943, which my father runs today. Yeah.
It's still running today.
My grandfather started in 1943 in a basement with 11 children, and today they have over 1,400 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you're related to the Rabbi Dessler from Baltimore or something?
Rabbi Dessler, the Michtam Eliyahu?
Yes.
Michel was my great grandfather. I never met him. My father actually never met
Okay.
him. Passed away at a young age.
Wow.
He was an incredible man. I mean, he changed the Muslim movement. The Dessler family in general was from Kelm, and they were the family all going all the way up to Rabbi Yisrael Salanter really taught the world the path in which to lead your lives.
Wow. Wow. So you came to Lakewood, you started in this yeshiva, work
I came
half
to
a day,
So I came to Lakewood,
and then you started working full time. Where did you start working full time?
I started off working at a company that does property management.
Okay.
And then eventually I got into my job that I have now in healthcare. Incredible people to work for. I'm blessed every single day that the people that I work for give me the opportunity to do a good job at what I do. I work hard, but at the same time, they allow me to continue all my extracurricular activities.
Wow. And how did you find that job?
I found that job through Chaveirim, actually. I joined Chaveirim when I was 17
Wow.
years old, and my boss got to know me through Chaveirim, and he hired me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. How did you get to Chaveirim
So let's
at
let's
at such a young age?
so let's back up for a second.
Okay.
So I was a boy. I'm just gonna be honest over here. I was a boy that the yeshiva thing for me just you know it didn't work out too well. Okay,
Okay.
I pushed hard to graduate, and I did. But
Wow.
I was, a young, ambitious boy who I just wasn't thrilled. I wanted to do something. I wanted to accomplish, and the sitting in a base measures just it wasn't for me. Um, and I had a plan. And I at a very young age I wanted to make a difference. And
Okay.
that's not something that's me. That's something that I was, raised with.
Right.
It's in my DNA, and I think I did it in a little bit of a different way than most people would. I had a passion to help others. Okay, and again, that's
Okay.
something
Wow.
I was raised with. And the first thing I did was I actually signed up to volunteer with Chai Lifeline. And I remember I was 17 years old. I remember my first trip to Chop Hospital at 5 o'clock in the morning. And when I got back at
Wow.
7 in the morning, I felt so accomplished. I felt so accomplished. And I said, you know what, this is, and I'm going to make my life's mission to help others. Um,
Wow.
and through the right role models and the help of the Rabbanu Shalom Hashem, for giving me so many incredible opportunities. um, I think I was, able to accomplish it, and I think I was able to do my part, and continue to
So
do.
so at 17 years old, you started volunteering for Chai Lifeline.
Correct. So first thing I did was
Wow.
17 years old. I started volunteering for Chai Lifeline. Then I joined Chaveirim at 17,
Wow.
and then I went to EMT school. I became an EMT. When I graduated, I was 18 years old. Started volunteering for a local first aid squad. And then, various other organizations along the way, from Isameach to the Special Children's Center to, so many other, organizations that I, had the chus to help out and be a part of. And ultimately, I consider myself selfish because,
You're allowed to consider yourself selfish.
I consider myself selfish because, I only do this because I enjoy it, and I
Right.
can't imagine a
Wow.
life without it. So that's really, and I tell people all the time, when you do something for somebody else, it does more for you than it does for them. And it's really, really true.
Wow. Wow. So when you graduated as an EMT at 18, you joined the local
I
first
joined,
aid squad
yeah,
right away?
I joined the local first aid squad. I would say approximately 6 months after I became an EMT. Started riding for the 911 system, and then I would say maybe 2 years later, I joined the Hatzalah, and then I joined another Hatzalah, in a few various different neighborhoods. And today I'm blessed to take a few hundred Hatzalah calls a year. Um,
Wow.
and each one is an opportunity, and and I consider myself blessed that the Rebbeinu Shalom gives me all these opportunities.
So, wow, amazing. It's wow. So, yeah, you have you had a friend, mutual friend in common. How did you get to meet him? Yochi Ruby, that's all.
Sure. So Yochi Ruby in general is somebody who's changed my life forever. Okay.
Okay,
I'm sure
wow.
he's changed many lives, but for me personally, I could tell you that when I got to know Yochi, I was a kid. I was running around, a little bit of Chai Lifeline, a little bit of Chaveirim, you know, here and there. I was helping people out, but Yochi really introduced me to the world, and I tell that to people all the time. I met
Wow.
Yochi at a wedding. This little kid came over to me and he said, "Hey, I need some help with some oxygen tanks. Can,
Okay.
can you carry some oxygen tanks to my car?" And that little thing that I did, okay, changed my life forever. Yo,
Wow.
I became very, very close. Um, as you know, I met you through Yochi. I'll never forget that day.
Unfortunately,
And you know, Yochi really, he introduced me to so many people who has given me so many opportunities. At Simcha Shane, I became close with Simcha Shane through Yochi Ruby. The whole Camp Simcha thing, the whole, um, Chai Lifeline, so many things just changed so much from the people that I met through Yochi Ruby. Um, he really changed my life. And one thing I'll say is, as much as Yochi is not here today, his life really lives on, because he really changed my life, and I have so many opportunities, so many people that I've met, so many paths that have crossed, and so many mitzvahs that have been accomplished, and lives that have been saved because of Yochi Ruby.
wow. And that I always thought it was because of that little radio on your belt that he met you
That's
and
that, that's
became friends with you.
that's possible. I mean, Yochi Ruby did have a certain thing for people with radios on their belt. He loved Hatzalah members. He loved Chaveirim members. He really did. And maybe it was the radio on my belt that he saw.
I'm
It's
sure it was.
yeah.
So, getting a little further, in 2020, we had something called Corona. How did you get involved with the plasma, and what made you decide to change the world in giving plasma and all of that?
Sure. So obviously in 2020, when COVID hit, when you're involved in various different organizations, you tend to get opportunities thrown your way. So when COVID hit, as a Hatzalah member, there was the whole aspect of, calls, and it was hard. It was rough. I forgot to mention that I'm very involved with Bikur Cholim, various different Bikur Cholims, but
Right.
particularly Lakewood Bikur Cholim. And, when COVID hit, my first project was the Pesach box, actually.
Okay.
Project was the Pesach box, where all of a sudden there was thousands of young couples in Lakewood that all of a sudden had the daunting task of making Pesach for the first time. And
Right.
together
Wow.
with Beis Medrash Gavoa and various different askanim and philanthropists, we were able to put together a program where we put together 10,000 Pesach boxes, subsidized cost, and we were able to help a lot of people make Pesach. And that was the initial first few weeks. Then, we started putting a lot of our efforts towards, caring for patients at home, concentrators, and those times are times that, I look back, I'm not sure how we made it through it, but the answer is that anybody who does something, God gives you the strength to do what you need to do, and that's the only answer.
Wow.
I
Wow.
feel really, really blessed, that we were able to do what we did up until November 2020. November 2020 was an interesting time. We
Okay.
we had a plasma. There was an organization that called the COVID Plasma Initiative that existed. They
Okay.
facilitated plasma drives, through the clinical trials with NIH and stuff like that, where they were going to take plasma from patients that recovered from coronavirus and infuse them into patients that are struggling with coronavirus and help them fight the infection.
Okay.
Model. Reached out and asked me if I would go to a local.
I'm sorry, you got cut off a little bit. What did you say before?
Rabbi Kassir from Lakewood
Yeah.
Bikur Cholim,
Okay.
who's a remarkable man. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so he's a remarkable man and an incredible role model of mine. And he reached out to me and asked me if I would come to a plasma drive in Lakewood, just to be there on
Okay.
behalf of Bikur Cholim and help out in case anybody needs anything. So, it was really just to show my face, and to be standing there with a Bikur Cholim ID card. And
Hack.
I showed up there, and it was an LTC. The drive was run by one of the blood banks, so there was not much that had to have been that had to be done, but I was there, and it was done together in partnership with the COVID Plasma Initiative. Over there, I met a woman, an incredible woman by the name of Mrs. Zeldi Open. And, we talked for a little bit, we exchanged numbers. And I said, hey, if you ever need anything, just let me know. And that was the first time I heard about the concept of monoclonal antibodies. At that point, it was approved for maybe a few days. It had its, FDA's emergency use authorization. And she told me about it, didn't mean anything to me, and we moved on. I would say about a week later, an aunt of mine, a very high-risk patient, got COVID. And in those days when somebody got COVID, it was scary. Baruch Hashem today,
Right.
it's a different story. And an aunt of mine got COVID, and I called her up and I said, hey, I remember you told me about this, this treatment, maybe you can help me get it. And it was a daunting task to pull it off. She had to go to Kimball and she had to come with certain papers, and there were certain requirements, and there was a lot of information that had to be known. She really helped us, pull it off. And my aunt went for this treatment, and literally 24 hours, it was like an Energizer bunny. She was back to herself. And
wow,
I watched
amazing.
this happen, and I said, this is incredible. I saw it with my own eyes for the first time. And I turned to her and I said, we got to do something over here. I said, we gotta make something happen. And she said, what do you mean? I said, it's time that you take this service and you open it up to the world. And she said, yeah, well, we do, it exists. We have a hotline. I said, oh, that's amazing. Where does the hotline go to? And she says, well, it goes to my email address. I said, and what happens then? She goes, well, we answer within 24 hours. I said, oh, okay, well, at this point, anybody who is testing, it takes a day to get a test. It takes 2 days to get results. It takes a day for them back to you. I said, by the time you know about it, you're 5-6 days in. It's too late for the patients that we care about most. I said, it's time that you have a 24/7 hotline that somebody answers 24/7, and within that phone call, within an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is of that phone call, the patient's on their way. Within a few hours, they have a needle in their arm and they're on their way to recovery. And she says, well, I don't really have anybody that can pick up that can answer the phones. I said, well, how many calls do you get a day? And she said, I would say around anywhere from 5 to 10. Now, 5 to 10 calls a day, no big deal. 216-644-4704. Let my phone start ringing. And sure enough, she set my phone. And at the same time, we started a national campaign where we did two things at the same time. We started the hotline that rings live. We started a advertising blitz in, online, digital, paper, newspapers, magazines across the country, and communities literally across the country. And we put together a list of core places in from neighborhood, from Los Angeles to New York, literally across the country, of options and what the criteria is for each place. So if somebody's a diabetic, where would they qualify? If somebody only has a rapid test versus a PCR, do you need an appointment? Do you need what medication? And we went through all the different options, and we put together hundreds of places.
Okay.
of options for people to get treated. And that's where the COVID Plasma Initiative's monoclonal antibody hotline was born.
Wow.
That is probably the most remarkable opportunity that I've ever had in my life. And that is something that has changed my life forever. And it's an opportunity that I know is never going to come again. And we started off
Wow.
this hotline, I would say getting 5 or 10 calls a day. And I remember the really busy days during the surges, we had, I would say about 30 calls, and we were placing patients, and the feedback that we got was incredible, was absolutely incredible. We worked together with the FDA that they can use our data. We followed up with every patient, and we were following up with the drug companies and the hospitals, infusion centers, and urgent cares across the country. And we really saw the impact that we were making, and we really saw lives that were being saved. And it was so incredible to be a part of it. And then Omicron came, the Delta variant, the surge. I forgot when it was, but I believe it was November, December, January of the following, a few months later.
Okay.
We saw a surge that was beyond words. Our hotline, which used to get 30 calls a day,
Okay.
started getting between 850 and 950 hotline calls a day.
Wow.
To put things in perspective, that's probably more Hatzalah calls than, every Hatzalah in New Jersey put together.
Wow.
Okay. Every Hatzalah in the country, I'm sorry, close to 1,000 hotline calls a day. We were placing, I would say, 300, 400 patients a day.
Okay.
And now it was, I look back and I'm not sure how we accomplished it. And the only thing I can say is we accomplished it with two things. Number one is the Yad Hashem. And in
Wow.
industries that I'm in, we see the Yad Hashem on a constant basis. The Rabban Shalom, like I said before, gives people the kayach to accomplish what they need to accomplish. And the second thing is the incredible team. We put together an incredible team of 35 people, dispatchers that stood at their phones 24/7, nonstop, hotline call after hotline call after hotline call. I'm talking about hanging up from one, getting to the next one. There were times where there were 30, 40 people waiting to speak to a dispatcher at the same time.
Wow.
We were able to, pull off the unimaginable, and we were able to properly place and hold the hands of all these patients. These patients were in their most vulnerable time, and we were able to
Sure.
and bring them back to health, just from phone calls, and we were able to place, especially the times at points there was a shortage of this medication, and what we would do,
Right.
take, we knew there was stock in Muncie. We would take patients from Lakewood and send them to Muncie, from Muncie to Brooklyn, and from Brooklyn to North Jersey. And we were playing
Wow.
power with thousands of patients, on a daily basis. And it was really working with doctors and rabbanim and urgent cares and hospitals. And before we knew it, we were the one-stop shop for any patient that tested positive for COVID across the country. Every Hatzalah member, every doctor, every Rav, every urgent care, everybody was just referring their patients to us. And the most incredible thing was every single one of these volunteers were volunteers. They gave
Wow.
days and their nights, their Shabbos and their Yontif, to be there for other people, and I could tell you, I did it myself. There were days that I didn't sleep. There were days that I didn't eat.
I was gonna ask you, did you get any sleep during this time?
It was rough. It was rough. It was rough. What we would do is the phones would be nonstop all the way, till about midnight, and then from about midnight until 3 is when we would start planning for the next day. Coming up with our options, coming up with where we're going to place patients. Cleaning up the mess that we left behind from the train wreck of a day. And then, came 7 o'clock in the morning, the hotline started ringing again. And we did this day in and day out. I remember for the Sukkot in the middle of COVID, I had the chus to go to Eretz Yisrael. And I remember not leaving my apartment. I was in my apartment hooked up to a battery pack the whole Shabbos and the whole Yontif, no Cholamide trips, just because I couldn't.
Wow.
It was there was a mission at hand, and I was going to stop at nothing to make sure that that mission happens. And again, all of this was done with the help of the Rabban Shalom. I feel so humbled that God chose me to be the person to the person to help 40,000 people. And it's an accomplishment that mesmerizes me till today.
Wow. Let me just ask you, do you think I mean, not COVID, not Corona, but this whole COVID plasma initiative that you took on was because Yochi sent it to you, or do you think it was someone else, Yad Hashem?
So Yochi Ruby took up a lot of my time when he was alive. Like I said, I was very cherished to be very close with him, especially towards the last few months of his life. I used to go every single day to the hospital in Bronx to visit him. And I was with him every single day, ultimately, until he passed away. And I had this
Unfortunately.
be with him, by his Yitzias Neshama, which is also something that I feel so humbled that the Rebbeinu Shalom chose me to be with him, by his Yitzias Neshama. But a lot of people used to come up to me and they say, now that Yochi's passed away, what are you going to do with your time? And Yochi passed away right before COVID. And I think that, Yochi had a hand in it. There's no question about it. He knew that, he's in a better place. He's no longer with us. Our hishtadlus for him and the things that we needed to do for him are now over. And the things that he needed to do on this world is over. And it was time for him to go back to the Rabban Shalom. And he knew that it was time that we have another hishtadlus that we have to do. And I feel like a part of him, facilitated that. I could so see Yochi going up to the Rabban Shalom at the Kisei HaKavod saying, I got this guy Dessler, he's available now. And I feel blessed. I feel blessed to have been the right shliach to so many people.
Wow. Wow. And what towards the end of the COVID plasma initiative, what made you and your team decide that, okay, we're in a better place now, we don't need to do the monoclonal antibodies?
Sure. So everything that we do and everything that we did the entire way from when we started the hotline until when we closed down the hotline was exactly 2 years to the day, actually, which is mesmerizing.
Wow.
Because just to back up for a second, but we started, I forgot the date, it was in November, and we finished when the FDA pulled its emergency use authorization. That's what
Okay.
that's why we stopped, and it was actually 2 years to the day. 2 years to the day.
Wow.
We had the chus to play a part in 40,000 lives. We set up infusions for 40,000 patients. And everything that we did from the beginning until the end was with rabbinical and medical advice. So we had a team of doctors, Dr. Berman, an infectious disease doctor, and, Dr. Zimmerman, and so many other doctors that really just, those are the first two that come to mind, and I'm sure I'm leaving some. There's so many doctors that really gave us guidance, along the whole way. And then we had all the rabbinical board, which, answered all of our halachic and moral questions. And we followed their lead with everything that we did. And ultimately, on their advice, it was, time to end it. And we are thankful that when we ended it, the need was really not there. The virus, Baruch Hashem, became so mild that the patients that we cared most about, for the most part, were doing okay. And, we got, we had the right tools through the scary times to be able to save many lives, and Baruch Hashem, it wasn't necessary anymore. And that's really what it comes down to, and at the same time, I forgot to mention, we thanked all the volunteers and all the people that helped out, but really it's the hospitals, the urgent cares, the infusion centers, and the home infusion companies, all these companies, and all these people that work for these companies, whether they're doctors, nurses, physicians assistants, or just logistical or operational people. They really bent over backwards, and they really, went the extra mile to help out so many patients. We have such incredible stories that came out of this. If you don't mind, I'll share with you one.
For
Um,
sure. Go
um,
ahead.
I'm actually going to pull it off. So in the very beginning, I'm actually going to pull it up. I mean, um, in the very beginning, we had just give me a second while I pull this up. 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull this up for a second. So in the very beginning, we had I'm going to leave the name blank, obviously
Okay.
confidential reasons, but in the very, 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 very beginning when we first started, believe it or not, cancer was not a qualification to be treated. Um, it-
Really? Wow.
yeah,
I I thought for sure it would be a major qualification.
yeah, you would think so, but again, the government has their ways. It's all data
Right.
anyways, and nobody was really treating. Pregnancy wasn't either, and we actually worked together with the FDA to have pregnancy. We actually shared with them our data on pregnancy, and monoclonal antibodies to be able to add pregnancy to the list of approved conditions to be treated.
Okay.
So, but cancer was not one of them, and cancer obviously is cancer patients are from our most concerning patients if they were to get COVID.
Of
So
course.
I had one doctor, without mentioning names. I'm not going to mention the city or where she's from, but I had one doctor who had a health center. She was the medical director of a health center, and she would accept cancer patients. She believed that cancer patients are at high risk and she's going to treat them.
Okay.
I had a cancer patient in another neighborhood, another town, that needed to be treated. And I'm just going to read you the messages that I sent her. I said, "Hi, I have a 60-year-old patient with cancer. Can you treat them?" And she responded, "Unfortunately, we will not be infusing today due to the snow. The next available day is Sunday." And this was on Thursday. Now,
Okay.
we all know that the difference between Thursday and Sunday is problematic. And it's just the patient can really go south by then.
Right.
And I said, okay, this patient, Nebuch, has cancer and lost a brother due to COVID. If there's anything we could do, that would be amazing. Now, this is a key example of what we do, really advocating for every single patient and trying our luck. Even if there is no option, we're gonna at least try, okay? And we're gonna
Okay.
go to every single place. We'll take the case. We'll shop it with every single place across the entire tri-state area if if need be, and we'll try. At least we have to be able to say. I always told this to all of our volunteers. We have to be able to say that we try to do everything for every single patient. And God does the rest.
Wow.
So I said, "Is there anything that we can do?" And she said, um, "I understand his anxiety since he lost a brother. Let me try something." Um, she said, "I'm calling the nurse now to see if she wants to come in. We'll let you know." And I said, "Wow, words cannot describe you guys. We will arrange transportation for her if need be because of the weather." And she responded, "You can give a 2 p.m. appointment. Our nurse is amazing, and please have whoever's coming to pick her up, pick me up as well." So here we had
Wow.
a doctor, okay, who knows a patient like a hole in the wall, okay, from another town even, who's coming in on a snowstorm in the middle, opening up a closed medical facility to go and treat a patient. Um,
Wow.
so I sent her a text and I said, "I'm involved in many organizations and deal with many medical offices and professionals. I don't think I have ever seen somebody put such heart into every patient. It's incredible to watch, and I feel like there's a reason you're doing so much for all these patients. So please share it."
Wow.
Asked her, I said, "I feel like there's something here. You don't just do this because, there's got to be a reason that you're doing it. Either it's in your DNA or something happened. There's some sort of life experience, or, and she responded to me a long text with, which, I'm looking at this now. This is, from 2020, it's 3 years later. And I still remember this story and it still sits with me. She responded, "Me and my husband almost died of COVID. My husband was on a vent for 7 days. I was at his
Wow.
bedside at that time since I worked at the hospital, and I was able to save his life 3 times. Cytokine storm, the blood pressure of 195 over 120/29, 7 days of temperature over 104. With Hashem's help and my tefillos, he returned from the threshold of death and is now a healthy man. He was the only survivor on a 10-bed ICU. I had bilateral pneumonia a week later and then pericarditis. It took us 7 months to recuperate. We both lost our jobs to COVID. Lots of time to think about what Hashem wants us to do since he decided that our tasks here are not yet done. Each Jew that I give antibody to is payback time to Hashem for giving me my husband's life back. I'm wondering how this course would have been different if treatments were available in the very beginning of March 2020. Gratitude is the driving force. It's as simple as that." So
Wow.
it's an incredible story. It's absolutely an incredible story. And you see how you know, her life was changed. Her life was really, really changed. And she said, opportunities knocking at my door. Opportunities knocking at my door. And I'm going to stop at nothing to eat up every single
Amazing.
opportunity and to help other people. And
Wow.
so many of these incredible, incredible people that were really our extensions. We would be nothing without them, in whatever capacity they served, where they really, like you see, here's a perfect example. They turned over the world for every single patient. And it was a struggle. It was rough. It was hard. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for anybody, just to stay sane throughout all these times, was not something that's easy. But the Rebbeinu Shalom gives everybody the koyach that they need. And the Rebbeinu Shalom really, really, really held everybody's hands and, and introduced us to the right people and vice versa. And we really were able to accomplish, an unbelievable thing and really change the world. I mean, 40,000 patients, if you think about it, each patient has a family. Each patient has, a life. Each patient has kids and grandkids and fathers and mothers. And it's incredible.
Amazing.
Incredible
Wow.
what we accomplished.
Wow. Amazing. I know I forgot to mention, how did you get involved with the Bikur Cholim of Lakewood?
How did I get involved with Bikur Cholim of Lakewood? So I actually was, when I was in that yeshiva
Okay.
in Lakewood, the guy who was running the yeshiva, like the administrator in the yeshiva, was involved in Bikur Cholim, and he actually signed me up to volunteer.
Oh,
And
wow.
I would help out. I started off with stocking pantries and and now I help them out. I'm a phlebotomist for them. We draw blood for patients. I help them out with different things. Health at home and medical equipment and all that more patient care type of stuff. But we're here to help. I became very close with Rabbi Kassir, who leads the organization in an incredible way. And whenever they need me, they call me, and we're happy to help. Like I said, it's another opportunity.
Wow. And you're also a phlebotomist. That's amazing. How long did that take to become a phlebotomist?
So I actually became a phlebotomist in the beginning of COVID.
Okay.
When they were starting all this, plasma stuff, and they were testing people to see their antibody levels. I became a phlebotomist very quickly, and I'll never forget. I finished my course, and I walked right over to one of the drives that was taking place, and I started drawing blood that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're done with the COVID plasma initiative, which is amazing. Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Hashem.
Yeah.
You're still a phlebotomist. What is next for Mr. Chaim Ozer Dessler?
It's a very good question. That's up for the Rebbeinu Shalom to decide. Whatever opportunities he sends my way, that's what we'll do.
Is it true that you're in school again, from what I hear?
This is true. We are.
What are you going for now?
A paramedic. That's Hashem, with Hashem's help.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big project in itself.
Yeah, it's a big project. I again always everything I do in my life is with guidance. I had a conversation with Rabbi Brudny, my uncle, Rabbi Brudny, before I embarked on this, and he wished me well and told me that it's the right way to proceed. And here we are, with Hashem's help. Got a long while to go, but we're looking forward.
How long is this new class, this school?
The course is about 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a hard school, I hear.
That's what they say, but hopefully with Hashem's help, we'll be able to pull it off.
Wow. Amazing. There's no words. There's no words to describe Chaim Ozer Dessler except exceptional. From the bottom to the top, he's exceptional.
I learn from exceptional people. That's the way it is. I tell it to
Nah,
all the time. I'm not amazing. I'm not a tzaddik. I'm not exceptional. It's that I learn from people. Remember, you come across people every single day. At least I do, and I'm sure everybody else does. And the goal is just to learn from everybody. To learn from all your life experiences, people, and use them as role models.
I just want to interject you for a minute.
Sure.
And you were saying about monoclonal antibody before.
Yeah.
And a story came back to me. I unfortunately got COVID a couple of times, and one night, unfortunately, I needed to get monoclonal, and we were going back and forth what to do, whatever. I was on the phone with a couple of my friends, and all of a sudden you got on the phone call, and you dropped everything that you were doing with monoclonal and COVID plasma initiative, and you came all the way from Lakewood to Brooklyn, and I ended up in King's Coney Island Hospital,
Community Hospital, 2525 Kings Highway.
Community Hospital, and it was about 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock at night, and my mother told you, go home. He's like, no, I'm staying. I'm gonna give you a ride home. My mother's like, no, my husband's coming to pick us up. He's like, absolutely not. I'm staying here. I'm gonna drive you home. And we are forever so grateful for that. Thank you.
I'm so grateful to have had the chus to be there with you. And again, I feel blessed. I remember that night. I'll never forget that night. And I think you're a beneficiary of the monoclonal treatment. I think it did a 0 to 60 on you. It reversed you. And all these examples, all these patients that we see, and we see how they were, reversed back. It just gave us the strength to continue pushing forward.
Wow. So you're back to work full time?
Yeah, I mean, I never stopped working full time.
Well, you were on the phone.
Yeah,
more than work.
A little shaky, those first few crazy months, but my incredible, the incredible people that I work for, really, they looked the other way when they needed to look the other way, and Baruch Hashem, we were able to accomplish what we needed to accomplish for the job. Not perfectly, but as best as we can. And I was going to put lives first, and I was going to stop at nothing to make that happen.
It's amazing that you have great people that you're working for, and just you alone, you're an exceptional person. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you so much for having us. And you're an inspiration to me.
A real treat.
You're an inspiration to me. You're an inspiration to everybody else.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, because it's people like you that teach us the right ways. That's all I could say.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day.
Lev, have a wonderful day. We'll be in touch. Take care. Be well.
Speak.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much for having us.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much.
No problem. Bye.